So good morning, everyone. I'm Fred Folkmore. I'm the director of the Autism Center of Excellence. We're delighted to welcome you to this conference. We've actually been holding a series of conferences starting even before COVID. In the fall, 6 months or so before COVID hit, we had a conference in person on transition. And so this is a nice follow-up as the end of Autism Awareness Month appears. And I want to thank my colleague Kim Bean for taking the administrative responsibility for organizing it. So the Center for Excellence supports school-based personnel education for children and youth with autism spectrum disorder living in Connecticut and beyond. We have 3 divisions: training, research, and direct service. And here's our website. Please take a note of the website because there's some nice resources. In particular, we just put up a series of about 20 videos designed for parents and teachers during COVID that talk about best practices, ways to approach a whole range of topics. I give talks on bullying and introduction to autism. We have talks on ABA. We have all kinds of talks, assistive technology, but they're all right there and they're perfectly free. So please feel welcome to use them. And then currently that whole thing is being translated into something like 6 different languages. Some of our other activities include outreach and training for parents, babysitters, and others. We have a program called SIT Training for parents and babysitters. I mentioned the new video series that's being translated. It's on our website. We're also starting to do first responder training. This is for ambulance, firemen, EMTs. It turns out police are not technically first responders in the state of Connecticut's mind. They have their own training program, but we are doing first responder training, which has been very rewarding. We also support students at Southern. We have at the moment 40 or so students at Southern who have self-identified as having ASD. That probably means we have about 80 students, and we want to pay attention to supporting our own students. We have a club, we have activities, we have support for our students, and we're very interested in expanding that. We're looking into a collaboration. I'm going to be talking later this morning about some college transition programs. We're hoping to revive a collaboration that somewhat got sabotaged by COVID with the Division Teach down at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, doing support for first-year students coming into college at Southern. We have done a series of talks during this crazy time of COVID based on autism science. And our last talk is coming up in May. It's by Jamie McPartland. It's going to be a very interesting talk. If you're interested, we have a flyer. It's on our website. It's in May on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And Jamie's going to be talking about using new technology as a potential biomarker for autism. The reason this is important, the FDA right now is looking at 2 possible methods for early identification of autism that are no longer paper and pencil. There's something you do with the child. So it's more like a hearing test. And they're looking at 2 of these, and this is one of them. And Jamie's going to be talking about that approach. It's science, but it's very, very interesting science. And it has the potential for really changing some of the ways we screen for children with autism. And that's a very important thing because we've come to realize the paper and pencil methods unfortunately don't work nearly as well as we would like. We're also engaged in a variety of outreach efforts to schools, and I can say more about that if anybody's interested. And you can email me through our website, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about any of these activities. So today's conference is on transition issues. These can be very, very confusing, as the sign says. And why is this? Well, there are transitions in several senses. There's transitions in funding sources. There's transition in the law and entitlement. There's transition in the role of the parent and the student. All these things interact in very complicated ways. And it's important that the student be involved in making choices. And as people know, I hope, the student should be involved as part of their IEP process, starting in adolescence. This varies from state to state in terms of how young, but the earlier the better from my point of view, and the more active the student is, because it's the student's life and it's the student's job or it's the student's college experience, and they need to centrally be a part of that transition plan. We also have many different agencies involved, and you're going to hear very shortly about some of our own agencies here in Connecticut. Other states have different models. And also keep in mind, there are a range of possible adult activities now that is increasing. It highly varies from state to state and place to place, and it can vary over time. So there are places that come into business, places that go out of business. There are some very good large employers right now in Connecticut that employ students on the autism spectrum. That's great. There are others that I wouldn't wish to have employ students on the autism spectrum because they're not so supportive. Students can be very effective employees. They can be very good employees. They can also be very good in college. So these are all wonderful potential opportunities for our students as we're doing a better job of getting students to that place where they can think about competitive employment, or they can think about college, or they can think about supported programs. Again, the important thing is to start early and to have a vision. This comes with student involvement and student experience. Experience comes through internship, work opportunities, volunteer activities, any of a number of things that gets the student out there, experiencing what it's like, whether it's working in a vet as a volunteer, or an animal shelter as a volunteer, working in a grocery store, working as a clerk. I have one student who told me the most effective training he ever got in his life was at Kohl's department store because they taught him how to be a good salesperson. And so that's the kind of thing that really can be very effective. And it doesn't have to quote unquote be therapy. It can be something that's out there where the student has a chance with some support, but not necessarily much, to make it in the real world. And to be aware of local and state resources is really critically important, as you're going to hear about. It's very important that the school knows that the student needs to be ready. And ready for what? Ready to enter the world of work, ready to enter the world of taking care of yourself. So some quick examples. A couple of years ago at Yale, where I work a couple of days a week, we had a conference on a Saturday for I think 150 or so parents, teachers, and high school students interested in going to college. These were all students with autism. And one of our first presenters, Jane Brown, made a comment very early on in her presentation, which is to say, and she said, "Mothers, if you're still helping your son take a shower in the morning, you need to stop." And there were audible gasps in the room, which meant that there were many mothers still helping their son take a shower, these teenage boys. That's one of the kinds of things that really is so critical. Adaptive skills, self-care skills, social routines, knowing how to use what you know in the real world. Another quick example, I have a young man who's a college student who's a math whiz. He knows all kinds of things in his head about math. He cannot walk into McDonald's and get a cheeseburger and change. And that's not because of the math, it's because of the social demands. And so those are the kinds of things we need to take care of. And it's like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. We need to practice going in with a student. We need to show them how to do things. We need to run it through. We need to have homework. We need to show them first, have them do it on their own or with a friend, and then come back and talk about it, how well it went. But we really need to think about getting the student ready. And also job skills, showing up on time, doing your work, being responsible. These are kinds of things that often students with ASD really excel at, and employers really appreciate. Ultimately, of course, the decisions are the students. And it's important to realize when a parent comes to me and says, well, I want my child to go here to college, or I want my child to go to this program. And I say to them, well, what does the student want? What does your daughter, what does your son want? Well, they hadn't thought of that. And the student really needs to be the center of this. The student really needs to be the focus of the intervention around which we all work. So upcoming conferences and developments, stay tuned. We're going to have a conference probably this summer. It's virtual online on autism and the law with about 10 speakers. I have a book coming out on autism and the law, and we're going to have some speakers from that book as part of celebrating the books coming out. But we'll have a notice on our website if you're interested. People probably know that students with ASD have a 7-fold increased risk of involvement with the law in all kinds of ways. And so we thought it was important to draw attention to this. We're also working right now, quite literally, Carrie and I and others, on a driver training program for students with ASD dealing with police stops. We have a new program here in Connecticut called the Blue Envelope through the Department of Motor Vehicles, which gives people with autism the opportunity to have an envelope in their car with their registration in it. And that blue envelope says, to the police, I have autism, pay attention to this. And you can give the police this envelope. It has a whole series of things for the policeman to know. And again, we're doing police training around the state the DMV is, but what we want to do is produce a video, and we're going to do some on-site training, we hope in the fall, for a small number of students with police stops with our Southern police collaborating. So we think that's going to be a great program. And we're hoping to kickstart again our program for college students supports in conjunction with Division Teach. Now that COVID is sort of phasing out, we can think about phasing that one back in. So some good news and some bad news. If you go to Google and right now type in autism, I did it 2 days ago, you get 230 million hits for all. About 40,000 peer-reviewed articles. Unfortunately, most of the work that's out there that's good work, and that's more the 40,000 than the multi-million, most of that work is on early diagnosis and provision of evidence-based treatments to younger children. There's comparatively much less on adolescents and adults. There is some, and there's some very good work, as you're going to hear later this morning. The focus, however, has been very much on younger children, and that's something we need to try to change. And we need to think more about service provision and supports for adolescents and adults. There's almost nothing on aging in autism. Let me just take a second to talk about outcome and how it's changed. This is a very quick summary of the first outcome studies. On the left, you see some of the earliest outcome studies in autism. There's good, fair, and poor outcome. Poor outcome means 24/7 residential care. Good means you're independent. Fair means you're semi-independent. Look at that first wave of studies and you can see a very small number of adults. The first wave of outcome studies were independent. Look at the next series, which goes some 15 years later from 1989 to 2003. So this is way out of date. And that's of course because there's a big time lag when you could look. But you can see that that number of good outcomes has increased dramatically. And there's good reason to think that's continuing to increase. We think that's reflected in more and more students pursuing things like vocational programs and colleges. The last time I heard, the largest college enrollment in the country with autism was the University of Texas, Dallas, which had around 400 to 500 students with ASD enrolled there. So the bottom line, more students with autism are looking for adult independence, and that's great. Not everybody, however. We need to think about them as well. Some students are now seeking more and better vocational programs. That's also to the good. More and more students are thinking about college experience of some kind, whether it's a junior college and living at home or going to a four-year college and having living in a dorm. At the same time, important challenges remain. And we need more and more information to provide supports to students. And that's something we're also very much committed to. So just to remind people some Zoom etiquette, keep muted, stay off your mic, put your questions in the chat box. If you're having connectivity issues, it usually helps to turn off it on the computer. If you're having hearing issues or mic issues, but probably the hearing issues, look at your settings, because that's usually a place where you can either turn up or down the mic and the earphones. Sessions are going to be recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, keep your video off when you ask questions. So I want to now introduce our panel moderator, Alicia M. Trackus. Alicia is an education consultant at the Connecticut State Department of Education and the Bureau of Special Education. She's been responsible for providing special support and guidance, as well as educators, administrators, and parents across the state of Connecticut. And she's been responsible for much of the good work that's been done, really, in implementing some of the new federal mandates for autism in terms of secondary transition and post-secondary outcomes. She has 16 years experience in the field of education. We're delighted to welcome her today. So Alicia, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Fred. Kari, am I able to share my screen?
I think Eileen can let you.
Yes, Alicia, you are a co-host. You should be able to share your screen.
Thank you, Eileen. Good morning, everyone. So again, thank you, Fred, and thank you to all of you at the Center for Excellence of Autism Spectrum Disorders for inviting us here today. As Fred said, my name is Alicia Tragus. I'm an education consultant in the Bureau of Special Education. It is my honor and privilege to be with you this morning. So good morning to our Connecticut students, families, educators, leaders, and professionals. So as Fred said, we really encourage you to use the Zoom features during our session to be engaged with our panelists. If you need to unmute yourself on Zoom, there's the first button for it. If you have a question, please put it in the chat box. If you need closed captioning, you can do so by selecting the closed captioning box. And we encourage you to use reactions as well. If you need to raise your hand to ask a question, feel free to do so. So I am here with a wonderful team this morning. The first of which is Kathleen Calloway. She is an autism support and resource specialist with the Department of Social Services in the Division of Autism. Kathleen has over 40 years of experience working with individuals with disabilities and initially worked for the Department of Developmental Services as an educator with the Early Connections Birth to 3 program, as well as a transition coordinator before joining the Autism Division in 2013. Ian Card is also with us. He is a vocational rehab specialist at the Aging and Disability Services in the Bureau of Rehab Services. He has been with the agency for 7 years, where he worked with both adults and youth. Ian received a master's degree from the University of Kentucky and is a certified rehabilitation counselor. He works in the New Britain area and is one of 11 level up counselors across our state. Lisa Farrell is joining us this morning. She is a certified work incentives counselor who works at the Department of Aging and Disability Services in the Bureau of Rehab Services in the Connect to Work project. She has been providing benefits counseling in the North region since 2019. Lisa has previous work experience as a paraeducator in Hartford and as an eligibility services worker with the Department of Social Services. She's joined with 3 of her teammates this morning, Richard Martinez, who is also a benefits specialist in the Connect to Work project, who has been working for the agency since last year. Prior to this, Richard worked as a school counselor in public education for 20 years and worked as a professional counselor at the college level for 3 years. Richard received a master's degree in counseling from Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. Another of Lisa's teammates is Mary Ellen McGarry. She's a benefits specialist in the Connect to Work project as well, and has been working with the agency for the last 6 years. The state of Connecticut is participating in the Social Security Administration study called Promoting Opportunity Demonstration, and Mary Ellen is a certified POD counselor providing benefits counseling to participants enrolled in the study. Her prior work experience includes school guidance counseling and high school career and transition counseling. Mary Ellen received a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and a master's degree in counselor education from Southern Connecticut State University. The last of Lisa's teammates this morning is Cynthia Scott. Cynthia is also a certified work incentive counselor working at the Connect to Work project. She's been providing benefits counseling for the POD since 2018 and for the Southern region since March of 2021. Cynthia's previous work experience is providing case management and care coordination services for elders and those with disabilities from 2002 to 2018, working for the Agency on Aging, Mary Wade, and Cornell Scott Hill Health Center. Ebony Johnson, a native of Bridgeport, Connecticut, has worked in the field of workforce development for the past 6 years, joining the Workplace Inc. in 2015 under the Young Adult Division Career Hub. In her current role as a lead workforce specialist, Ebony's expertise includes working with young adults who face barriers to employment educational, and training opportunities. She was the Disability Resource Coordinator for the Disability Employment Initiative, known as the DEI, which is a grant that provided funds to assist individuals who had physical, intellectual, and mental illnesses with enrolling in paid work experience, internship, education, and training. Ebony received a bachelor's degree in human development with a minor in sociology and African American studies from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and a master's degree in human service with a concentration in organizational leadership. She is currently attending the University of Bridgeport to receive a second master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. Karen Quisnell, also joining our team this morning, is a project manager with the Department of Labor and has assisted job seekers and employers in several capacities for more than 20 years. Her experience includes providing career and guidance and resume help on the agency's mobile career center called the Career Express, assisting employers with recruitment and training as a business service specialist, and over the last few years, implementing the federally funded DEI grant programs. Currently, she leads another federally funded pilot program called Retaining Employment and Talent After Injury and Illness Network, referred to as RETAIN, designed to facilitate communication between injured workers, their healthcare providers, and their employers, and provides early intervention services for workers to return to work and stay at work. And the last member of our team joining us this morning is Brian Smith. Brian is an Assistant Regional Director for the State of Connecticut's Department of Developmental Services. He started his career with the department in 2001 as a case manager and has made several career advancements since then. This journey has afforded him the opportunity and fortunate pleasure of working with within the Individual and Family Support Division of DDS's West region throughout his career. Beyond his commitments and responsibilities within DDS, Brian is an active participant in various regional and statewide committees, which include the DCF Region 1 Regional Advisory Committee, the DCF Region 5 Regional Advisory Committee, the Connecticut Transition Community of Practice Core Team, the Connecticut Transition Task Force, the Connecticut State Advisory Committee on Special Education, and many other community collaborations. Prior to his career with DDS, Mr. Smith worked with the private sector for two larger nonprofit organizations in various capacities supporting individuals with intellectual disabilities in residential, day employment, and school transition programs. So the 10 of us are here this morning to walk you through a brief overview of our federal and state secondary transition requirements, a review of secondary transition resources and professional learning opportunities, and then a brief overview of our Connecticut state agencies. We'll offer a time at the end of the session for us to be available for questions and answers, and we've agreed to stay on a little bit longer than the end of this keynote in between sessions, should anyone want to remain to ask us further questions. So we are excited to be here, and thank you again for allowing us to be part of this session. In this slide, you'll find some of the federal and state laws and regulations related to secondary transition, all of which are hyperlinked directly to the requirement. I can drop in the chat once I'm finished speaking a PDF of all of our slides, and they're all hyperlinked in there. I like to start out with one of the purposes of the IDEA, which is also a mission of the Bureau of Special Education, which is to ensure that all students with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. Pursuant to state statute as amended by Public Act 1949, transition planning and services are required beginning no later than the first individualized education program, known as an IEP, to be in effect when the student turns 14 with the diagnosis of autism, and updated annually thereafter. And for all other primary disability categories, pursuant to the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, transition planning and services are required to be in effect beginning not later than the first IEP to be in effect when the student turns age 16 or younger if determined appropriate by the planning and placement team, known as the PPT, and also updated annually thereafter. The IEP must include appropriate measurable post-secondary goals that are based upon age-appropriate transition assessments related to training or education, employment, and where appropriate, independent living skills. Those transition services, including courses of study, must be included as well that would need to assist the student in reaching those goals. So in Connecticut, those post-secondary goals are referred to as post-school outcome goal statements. Every student in Connecticut must have a minimum of 2 PSOGs, one related to post-secondary education and training, and one related to independent living skills. For each PSOGs, there must be a minimum of 1 separate corresponding annual transition goal with short-term objectives related to that transition services area of needs. Annual transition goals are written as measurable statements that describe what the student can reasonably be expected to accomplish within that academic year. And short-term objectives describe meaningful and measurable intermediate outcomes between the student's current performance level and the annual transition goal. Those post-school outcome goal statements are written as goals that a student will achieve after leaving high school. So those annual goals and short-term objectives help ensure the student will reach those PSOGs upon leaving high school and exiting high school. So what are transition services? They're a coordinated set of activities that are designed to be within a results-oriented process that improve both the academic and functional achievement of the student with a disability in order to facilitate a student's movement from school to post-school activities. And they include post-secondary education, vocational education, integrated employment, including supported employment, continuing and adult education, adult services, independent living, or community participation. I like to refer to those things as where the student is going, where's their destination. Transition services are also based on the individual student's needs, taking into account their strengths, preferences, and interests, and include instruction, related services, community experiences, the development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives, and if appropriate, acquisition of daily living skills and a provision of functional vocational evaluation. I like to refer to those things as what did the student need to get there? So those are the supports and services to help the student reach their destination. Transition services can be special education, if provided as specially designed instruction, or a related service, if required to assist the student to benefit from special education. For PPT meetings where the purpose of the meeting is consideration of the post-secondary goals or the transition services needed to assist the student in reaching those goals, the district must invite the student with a disability. If the student does not attend the PPT meeting, the school district must take other steps to ensure that the student's preferences and interests are considered. Additionally, to the extent appropriate and with the consent of the parent or the student who has reached the age of majority, which we refer to as adult student, the school district must invite a representative of any participating agency that's likely to be responsible for paying or providing transition services. Another requirement pursuant to the IDEA is beginning not later than 1 year before the student reaches the age of majority, which is 18 in Connecticut. The IEP must include a statement that the student has been informed of the student's rights under the IDEA and which of those rights, if any, will transfer to the student upon reaching the age of majority. When a student with a disability reaches the age of majority, the school district must provide notices required by the IDEA and state special education law to both the adult student and the parents. All other rights accorded to the parents under the IDEA and state special education law will transfer to the student unless a court has determined the student to be incapacitated. The school district will notify the student and the parent when those rights are transferred. An adult student may notify the school district in writing that the parent will continue to have the right to make educational decisions on their behalf, even though the student has turned 18 years of age. And the adult student may revoke the granting of those rights at any time. An adult student can also authorize an adult to make educational decisions on their behalf using a power of attorney consistent with the requirements of state statute. And so I have linked here on this slide, a link to the Connecticut Probate Court where you can find more information about guardianship and conservators. The summary of performance is required for each student with an IEP under the IDEA whose eligibility has terminated due to either graduation from high school with a regular high school diploma or due to exceeding the maximum age of eligibility. The summary of performance is a summary of the student's academic and functional performance, which includes recommendations of how to assist the student in meeting their post-secondary goals in post-school environments. A link to the summary of performance as well as a frequently asked question is also on this slide. I'm sure you're aware that we had a recent change in our IDEA eligibility. It has been extended until age 22 due to a recent court order. On June 10th of last year, the United States District Court for the District of Connecticut published the AR versus the Connecticut State Board of Education summary judgment. And it was filed as a permanent injunction judgment and order on July 10th of last year. What this did was displace the current state law and practice to exit students at the end of the school year in which they turn 21 years of age. This decision supersedes prior guidance issued by the Connecticut State Department of Education related to that law and practice. So as a result of this court decision, all students who have not yet turned 22 years of age and who have not received a regular high school diploma remain eligible for special education services under the IDEA up until their 22nd birthday or until they graduate with a regular high school diploma, whichever occurs first. As a reminder, students who exit high school as a result of either completing school with other credentials, meaning the student did not receive a regular high school diploma, from discontinuing schooling, transferring to a GED program, or moved and not known to be continuing, still have an entitlement to FAPE, a free appropriate public education. These students may be readmitted to public school and maintain eligibility for receipt of special education and related services, again, up until their 22nd birthday or until they graduate high school with a regular high school diploma, whichever occurs first. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals did deny the state's request for a stay of the AR decision. And so therefore the plaintiffs will be moving forward with the notification and implementation of compensatory services when appropriate under the district court decision. This judgment and order is in effect during the pendency of the appeal. A few resources on the slide. to our federal, national, and state resources, including a transition guide to post-secondary education employment services for students and youth with disabilities, which is published by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services. There are links to 2 of our secondary transition technical assistance networks and various links to the Connecticut State Department of Education, Bureau of Special Education, and CPAC, Connecticut's Parent and Information Training Center. On the next slide, I'm going to review the Secondary Transition Planning from School to Adult Life webpage. This page contains multiple subpages related to secondary transition, documents and forms, related resources, resources for students and families, resources related to the IDE indicators 13 for secondary transition, 14 for post-school outcomes and post-school outcome surveys, a link to laws and regulations, which I had on the previous slide, a link to Connecticut transition programs offering transition-only students for students with disabilities, and Easing into Secondary Transition, a comprehensive guide to resources and services in Connecticut. On this slide, you will find some of the Connecticut State Department of Education resources, which include the 2 infographics, the Providing Transition Services Flowchart and Secondary Transition Planning Process, which were revised this fall. The bottom row shows our IEP checklists to ensure compliance with Indicator 13 and a rubric for scoring Indicator 13 so that IEPs are being made with high quality programming and services. Additionally, you'll find a link to Stepping Forward, a self-advocacy guide for middle and high school students, which is a co-collaboration between CSDE and CPAC. On this slide, you'll find some more secondary transition resources, including Building a Bridge, a resource manual for high school students, the Transition Bill of Rights for parents of students receiving special education services, a link to the Transition Assessment Resource Manual, and our Connecticut Core Transition Skills. CSDE is offering several virtual sessions this year, and some still remain for the end of this school year. CSD and CERC offer these sessions, which you can register at on the CT CERC events page, which is found on the screen. We also have a Connecticut Transition Community of Practice. Our last meeting is on June 3rd of this year from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It is a virtual meeting, and you can register at the CT events page as well. The CSDE with the RESC Alliance are offering person-centered planning, life course planning tools, trainings. Register through the RESCs on the flyer, which I will link, is linked there. There are some on-demand webinars that are linked on this slide, as well as access to free webinars that are available through Canvas, an online learning management system. So without further ado, I think I went a little bit over. I am going to introduce our first member of our team, Brian Smith, to review the Department of Developmental Services.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Alicia, for the introductions. I will try to make this as quickly as possible to make time. As Alicia mentioned, I'm Assistant Regional Director.
Excuse me, Brian?
Yes, I'm in the West Region Division. Yes. Yes. I can hear you.
Okay. We are having trouble hearing you. If you could please turn off your video, it might help with the connectivity. Thank you.
Sure, I can do that. Thank you. Okay. So within the Department of Developmental Services, I always like to review the mission of the agency to get the conversation going. And the mission of DDS is to partner with individuals we support and their families, to support lifelong planning, and to join with others to create and promote meaningful opportunities for individuals to fully participate as valued members of their communities. This mission and the next screen being the vision have been an established part of DDS for multiple administrations. Our current commissioner, Jordan Sheff, has maintained the mission and vision that was established by one of his predecessors, feeling as though it's an appropriate direction that he wanted to continue the department to go in. So here's our vision statement. That is all citizens supported by Department of Developmental Services are valued contributors to their communities as family members, as friends, neighbors, students, employees, volunteers, members of civic and religious associations, voters, and advocates. So we are about promoting the individuals that are associated with our agency and who we support being valued partners in our community and contributors in our communities. Back when I started 20 years ago with DDS, you had to make a phone call to get the eligibility packet mailed to you. That is no longer. If you go to our website, you'll see that nice little eligibility green checkbox. If you scroll down a slight bit on our main webpage, you'll see it on the left-hand side. It's a hyperlink. You can just click on that and it will bring you to what you see to the right of that, those 4 different bullets. Most folks who are coming through DDS eligibility are selecting option number 2, which is an application for someone with intellectual disability. But we do also do the eligibility determinations for our friends at DSS and the Autism Spectrum Disorder Program. So, and Kathy's on this call and we'll share more about their specific eligibility requirements. But if you want to click on the next one, there is an eligibility video, both in English and Spanish, that's available. There is fact sheets, and the application is in PDF form. When you click on one of those hyperlinks, just please print it, download it, and it can't save on our website. You got to print it out and mail it in with all the supporting documentation. You can go to the next one, Alicia. So for DDS eligibility, we're looking at 3 primary factors, and that's all based on Connecticut General Statute 1-1G. Significant deficits in intellectual functioning. So we're looking for an IQ through cognitive scores at 69 or lower, okay? Deficits in adaptive behavior, evaluating using standardized measure. Very common one that we see come through our eligibility and in our files is the Vineland. And it always has to be manifested during the developmental period. So we're looking at the disability being defined and identified within that period, and that's prior to the age of 18. We use a lot of medical records that are submitted by families and individuals, school records, and standardized testing that's conducted. Some individuals that do come through our eligibility have multiple diagnoses. So we do have young men and young women in Connecticut who are do possess IQ scores that are 69 or lower, also have autism diagnoses, may have Down syndrome, may have seizure disorders, or a host of other disabilities. There is one category, the Prader-Willi syndrome, that anybody with that medical diagnosis is grandfathered in, and they're able to get DDS services regardless of the IQ thresholds that are defined in our eligibility information. There is some autism eligibility on this particular slide. Again, I'm not going to spend time on that because I'm going to allow for my colleague in DSS, Kathy, to address their specific eligibility requirements, but that's there for your purposes as well. Alicia, you can go to the next one. This is just kind of a breakdown of the infrastructure within DDS. As I mentioned, I'm within the Individual and Family Support Division. We have a private division who works hand in hand with all our private provider networks, including our CCH programs as well. We have our public division. We do still provide residential services to a host of individuals here in the state of Connecticut. So our public division is shrinking in number as more and more folks move out into more private operated living arrangements. And we also have our self-determination division, and those individuals have chosen to self-direct their supports. The allocations that they may have been awarded through our department, they are hiring and firing and developing their schedules for employment and day services or even residential. They are the employers and they are directing those resources. And below that is just a host of all the other supporting infrastructure to keep the department going and having things run smoothly. You can go to the next one, Alicia. Once a person is made eligible for DDS services, they typically would end up with one of the region's helplines. Each of the 3 regions in DDS have helplines established, and those are for folks who will not be assigned a case manager directly. Typically, case management is assigned at the time when somebody is able to secure Husky C insurance through Medicaid. But until then, they are supported through our regional helplines. Whether you have a case manager or you're in the helpline, you still have access to a variety of different services and supports. Each of the regions do have respite centers that are available to DDS eligible individuals. We are in the process of reopening those. So we are targeting, not officially yet, but unofficially we're targeting the first week in June that those will be reopening. We had to close them during the second wave of COVID, just like the first wave. So our staff in those centers would be able to be redeployed to support other public residential settings. We have a host of resources on our family support teams, which include nursing, behaviorists, PT, OT, speech, psychologists, excuse me. We also have family support workers, which are residential workers who work hand in hand with somebody in the community, somebody in a family home or their own apartment. So a lot of those clinical supports that I just referenced are on consultation basis. They're not doing necessarily direct service, but they are a great resource to individuals and families in helping navigate some of the systems in our state. We do have 9 transition advisors, 3 in each region. My friends up in our North region are presently, they're hoping to have that filled within the next month. They assist with all the individuals who are 18 and over and navigating our systems and talking transition and connecting with vendors and working on those PPTs with families. So they are a great resource to individuals, students, and their families as they start making that migration from what is offered through the school systems into adult services. As I mentioned, we do have a host of case managers that we have in our regions. Some areas right now have deficits and vacancies, which we're trying to work on refilling. Waiver supports, just in general, due to Public Acts in 2005, all our resources, when we are making allocations to individuals, they must be on Husky C Medicaid so that we can enroll in one of our home and community-based waiver programs that enables our department in the state of Connecticut to submit into the Medicaid program federally for reimbursement for the services. Presently, as we speak, we get 50 cents of every dollar that goes to waiver supports returned to the state of Connecticut. And as I mentioned, there's a host of ways that you can direct your services, and you can go right to one of our private agencies. You can self-direct. So there's a variety of different options in our system, which we can have more intimate individual conversations with individuals and families as it gets closer to them getting an allocation and using that allocation. You go to the next one, please. Connecticut is, DDS is an employment first agency. We really strongly recommend people look at what are my options. Am I employable? What skills do I need to enhance and hone in on to make myself more employable in the workforce in Connecticut? The link there will provide you a direct contact to our website. But if you did go to our website and looked under Day in Employment Services, the Employment First initiative is listed there. and you get some information regarding that. But you will hear messaging from our agency on a regular basis regarding employment. And I will say that I know I have a host of colleagues from BRS on this panel as well. We work collaboratively with them every single year, discussing all the graduates who are making their way out into adult services. Are they candidates for competitive employment? Where are they going? Are they going on a competitive employment pathway, or are they going to need more traditional adult services or something in between to hone in and enhance skills so that maybe in a year they might be able to go to competitive route? So you'll hear this employment message on a regular basis from our staff. Go to the next one. This kind of gives you an idea of kind of a continuum of options. We're looking at, as Alicia mentioned with the recent ruling, we're looking at starting our relationship with respect to employment and day services with the youth coming out of school systems at the age of 22, all the way up through retirement. So these are just a couple of different service options that are available. Again, this is on our website. Competitive employment, as I mentioned, individual supportive employment. We have folks who don't need any services whatsoever. They are working competitively, getting minimum wage or greater, and don't even need any support on a job. We have others who might need a little bit of support on a job. We have others who might, the increase in level is individualized, obviously, but each of these services give a different level of support. The individualized day vocational is somebody who might be working competitively, not by definition, but they're out there in the community in a job, but they need a larger threshold of support on the job than what the competitive employment definition would allow. And then we have some more one-on-one individualized non-vocational focus programs. The employment transition services that kind of go between service that's been in our service system now for about 4 years. And that was for folks who are just not ready yet to go in competitive employment. So we built this interim service in play, and they, that support and service works on developing all the necessary skills to get that person much closer to an employment opportunity. And then we would go back and work with our friends at BRS and looking at what's next, doing the job development, doing the job, and then we would take over the long-term supports for that person. And then we also have senior supports, and then for those who want to, retirement. This is just a host of different resources that are available on our websites. I encourage people, obviously DDS eligibility is a hot one, so that's right there at your fingertips. Our family website affords people to navigate different resources based on where they are in the lifespan. So are you coming out of birth of 3? Are you school age? Are you in transition years? Are you going into retirement? So the family website is broken out by those milestones. Great resource. You'll see some overlap between each of them, but there's a lot of different information both nationally and state. Life course planning, we have embedded life course into our annual plans. They will be, if you get resources from DDS, you will be able to see that we have embedded at least 4 tools into the individual plan document that we currently use. So we do a lot of person-centered approach when it comes to developing those service plans. Topics A to Z is this easy way to navigate our website. So if you're looking for something, just click on that and just go alphabetically. Employment day services, the link is right there. So if you went to topics A to Z, you'll be able to find it. If you went to topics A to Z and you did autism, you'll see it will bring you right to our friends over at DSS's homepage for the autism services program. So it will make that connection for you. Our qualified provider list. That is a critical piece. You'll be able to see that's updated regularly. You'll be able to see who we contract with. So if you did get resources from us assigned to you for annualized employment or day, or even perhaps residential, you'll be able to see who is approved in our system of support that you can tap into, and maybe look at your local community first, and then span out in those circles levels of support and go further and further away. I always encourage people when they look at that qualified provider list is don't look at the address of the provider, because sometimes the home base main office is not in your immediate community, and that's the address that's listed. So there might be 8 providers in your backyard, but that list may not show that they're all in your backyard. So use our staff. We know who's servicing certain geographic areas, and we'll help have, well, that will help the discussions and, you know, streamline your search for an agency to provide services. The other column is some new transition resources. Our transition advisors have done a fantastic job updating information, so that transition timeline is on our website. It's both English and Spanish, as you can see, and there's a transition planning document, English and Spanish as well. The timeline is a great tool. It's a checkbox kind of system, so that you can just print it out and just navigate that. What do I need to do at certain points in my transition from 18 up through 22 now, and a couple other links there. I just want to also just reiterate what Alicia mentioned, is that we are planning on youth exiting schools at 22 now. So we have shifted our mindset, our funding, et cetera, to start receiving youth as they exit schools on their 22nd birthday. We do collaborate with BRS and other state agencies on a regular basis. And sometimes you'll hear us reach out to you to make sure you're making those connections with those appropriate agencies based on your loved one or based on your particular situation. You'll notice on our day in employment website is we do offer a program called Project Search. So there's a number of these programs statewide that you opportunity for folks to go into these programs and get a host of skill development and training opportunities at a host site, i.e. Mohegan Sun, Greenwich Hospital, Charlotte Hungerford Hospital, just to name a few off the top of my head, Norwalk Community College is another one. So these sites offer a platform for an individual to go into this program for up to 10 months and get a lot of skill enhancement, great work exposure, build the resume and skill sets so that when the program's over, they'll be able to find a job in an area that they're strong and are interested in. So the Employment Day website link will provide you some additional information on those types of programs. But I will be here for the rest of the morning. I don't think I went over, but if I did, I apologize to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. A lot of questions have come in the chat, but we've been trying to mention, and I think it was Kim. Thank you, Kim. At the end, when we do a Q&A, we'll bring up all of the questions, so we're making a note of them. So our next presenter this morning is Ian Card from the Bureau of Rehab Services.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Alicia, for the introduction. My name is Ian Card. I'm with the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services Level Up program. So I'll be talking primarily today about our Level Up services, but also briefly discussing our adult services as well. So our Level Up services are available for any student between the ages of 16 and 22, as long as they are receiving services under an IEP or a 504 plan, or have a documented disability and are currently attending a high school or transition program. Although I know, as previously mentioned, transition planning in terms of the IEP starts at age 14 for individuals on the spectrum. For our purposes, though, we're not able to engage with them directly until the age of 16. Our services are all vocationally driven because our goal is to help students prepare for life outside of school. So we do that by a couple of different means. We look at helping students develop their current work skills. We talk about self-advocacy, help students develop the tools to be able to speak up for themselves when they need help, whether it's disability disclosure or not, maybe they're just struggling on a job site. We talk to them about different tools and different skills they'll need to be successful in the job site. I know hygiene was previously mentioned, as well as the importance of showing up on time. We talk about how to deal with or interact with different people depending on an individual's relationship on the job site, like how you interact with your coworkers versus your supervisor versus a customer on a job site, and how to problem solve on the job. And that's a big challenge for any high school student. So we try to help develop these skills ahead of time. And all of our services, they can be done in either a group or an individual setting. It really depends on the student. We try to get as many students to engage in a group setting as possible because it helps facilitate the learning process. It allows students to give each other firsthand experiences as opposed to hearing from yet another adult about what to expect on a job site or how to behave on a job site. It just makes it a bit more realistic for them and helps it hit home a little bit better in my opinion. In addition to that, we are also able to offer students a in-person work experience during which time students do get to do some work and they get paid at minimum wage during that time. It is a short-term temporary position just designed to give them that experience. And we have someone on the job site to help them with adjusting to working on that job site, help them develop those natural supports and help them be more independent on that job site. And the goal of it is to eventually have supports back away and have the students be completely independent on the job site as appropriate for them. One of the downsides is we're not able to provide transportation to and from a job site. So that is something that your level up counselor will be discussing with you if that is a service you're looking into. The other side of things is we help students look into their career interests. This is all driven by the student. The counselor is not here to say to any student what is a career goal that they should be pursuing, but just help direct them into ones that might be of interest to that student. We do that through a variety of different means, including interest and aptitude assessments. We do some online exploration, and then we also help connect students with individuals who work in those job settings that the students are interested in, so they can hear firsthand from someone who's doing the job what the job is like, what are some skills or what are some tasks they need to do, learn about the positives and the negatives of any job site so the student can make a better decision for themselves about whether or not it's still a career path they want to enter into. And we do collaborate with schools, and we do collaborate with families. We just try to make sure that the students are the primary focus of any service that we provide, but we do want to make sure that we're engaging as many people as possible to help make it the best for that student. And then also we offer job shadowing, which due to COVID has been kind of put on hold for the majority of our students. But it's an opportunity for that student to be on the job site and witness firsthand what the job looks like, just again to help them make a better and more informed decision for themselves. The other piece of the BRS program is our adult services side of things. Our adult services is based on an eligibility-based program, where again, it's all vocationally focused. Now, the difference between Level Up and the adult services is Level Up is designed to help students explore and learn more about their career interests and kind of get a better handle on entering into the workforce. The adult services is designed to help place individuals onto a job site, and whether that involves going directly into work, or maybe the student needs or at this point the adult needs training or certification or what have you, they can assist with that. So there's a number of services that are available through our adult program. They are all individualized, and for individuals who are looking for our adult program, again, it is eligibility based, but they service anyone with a disability except for blindness, as that's done by our sister agency, Bureau of Education and Services for the Blind, or BESB for short. So the number, as you can see on this slide here, there's a number of different services. There's, transportation, training, there's home and vehicle modifications, there's vocational counseling and benefits counseling. You'll hear from a number of our benefits counselors across the state here momentarily. And again, it's primarily designed to help place individuals so we can help with post-secondary in some instances, or help give students or individuals employment while they pursue their post-secondary education goals, bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, what have you. And in some instances, they can assist with individuals with those degrees. And again, it's all case by case, it's all individual, and it's based on the collaboration between the individual and the BRS counselor. And that's about for me.
Thank you very much, Ian. We will now have Lisa from the BRS Benefits Counseling Connect to Work project provide her overview.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. And Alicia, thanks so much for all of this planning. We appreciate it. I'm here to talk about BRS, the Benefits Counseling Services that we provide, also known as CEWICs. So we're benefits counselors, benefits specialists, or CEWICs. We've got a lot of names. What the CEWIC is a certified work incentive counselor. And what we do is really help with the anxiety and the worry of individuals who are on SSI or SSDI and thinking about getting back to work, and really worried about how that work will impact their benefits, whether it be their SSI, their SSDI, or their Medicaid, Medicare, sometimes state SUP, as well as SNAP benefits and state benefits. So our job is to really work with the youth and talk to them about, of course, the benefits of getting into work and paying into FICA, and also reducing the dependence on their benefits, but as well as the various work incentives that are offered through SSI and SSDI to just help them hold on to some of their benefit and to be able to work. We give examples of how working and staying on your benefit or working alone can help people achieve a more secure financial future. We do a review of, as I said, both the federal and state benefits, and our goal is with the Connect to Work project is to really help maximize financial independence. As far as the referral process, we can start mostly what we require are for, well, definitely a person who has to be already on SSI or SSDI, a disabled individual. They have to be employed, have a job offer, or are planning to go to work in the near future. And then what we will do is just discuss all the pertinent information and determine if general information will suffice, sometimes just a phone call. And with the youth being involved, we really encourage that youth be involved in the phone call. Sometimes just a parent wants to talk, but we really want the youth involved in their future and figuring out how their benefits will be affected. And then we would see if a general phone call will suffice. Sometimes it is involved that we need to have more specific information given, where we need to send some forms. And by the way, this is right now, as most of us are home, working from home. So this is primarily done on the phone, or we can also do Zoom calls as well, or on Teams. But then we would send some informations to be signed and into Social Security to just verify exactly what benefit the person is on and what work incentives will help them maximize their benefit as well as reduce the benefits. So we are here to support the state and local agencies and disabled individuals who want to work. And as I said, our priority is to help those who are definitely have those work goals and have the job offer, planning to go to work in the near future. We are now, thank goodness, pretty much fully staffed throughout the state. And Alicia has provided a link to that information. So for the referral, you can do a self-referral, or if you're working with a case manager, the case manager can do the referral on your behalf. But yeah, so that's available. And on that, we'll also talk about, there are the Bridgeport and Fairfield is Mary Ellen, who is also here. I do the Hartford and Windsor area. The New Haven and Middletown is with Cynthia Scott, who's here. And Norwich and New London area is with Fred Heath, and Waterbury and Torrington is now Spanish speaking, which is amazing and wonderful. And that's with Richard Martinez. So we're getting fully staffed and hopefully are here to help you all get back to work.
Thank you, Lisa. And as at the end of the PowerPoint slides that Kim shared with everybody, there are two handouts that Lisa mentioned, the SSDI pamphlet as well as the SSI pamphlet.
Right, and those will give you some general information about the different work incentives that are allotted and entitled to those who are on SSI or SSDI. And as we said, for sure, just give us a call and we can really hone into those and go over that with you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So up next will be Kathy from DSS.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, SCSU, and everyone who has taken the time to attend this important presentation and conference. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide a brief overview of the waiver for persons with autism and the autism state plan services under DSS. In July 2006, the Autism Spectrum Disorder Program was established under the Department of Developmental Services, DDS. And this came about because a group of parents got together to advocate for their children who were unable to access any services through DDS because their children had autism but did not meet the classification of intellectual disability, meaning that their IQ was a 70 or above. The pilot program began in New Haven County in July 2006, and then was expanded to Hartford County in August of 2008. In 2011, Public Act 11-4 established the Division of Autism Spectrum Disorder Services. Both the pilot and the autism division were initially established to fill avoidance services for individuals with autism, again, who did not have an intellectual disability. The pilot originally served individuals with ASD over the age of 18 and was later open to those aged 3 through the lifespan. In July of 2016, the Division of Autism Spectrum Disorder Services was transferred from DDS to the Department of Social Services. And the transition included the DDS staff that was dedicated to the autism division. And at the time we had two waivers. We had the waiver for persons with autism, and we also had the early childhood autism waiver, also known as the ECAW, for children aged 3 and 4 with Medicaid. This waiver was officially closed in 2018 when state plan services through Beacon Health Options came into being. Presently, our autism staff it's a very, very small division. And so we have a very small staff. We only have a program manager. We have an administrative assistant. We have 3 case managers, and we have 2 autism support and resource specialists, myself and my colleague, Nate Calixto. To be eligible, next slide, please. Thank you. To be eligible for the services, again, we had a primary diagnosis of autism, and this is done from an autism specific assessment, the GARS, the ADOS. We have to have a full scale IQ of 70 or above, 3 years of age, have legal residency within the state of Connecticut, Medicaid eligibility. However, we have a huge wait list right now, so individuals can apply and not be Medicaid eligible. If a slot should come up, your case manager will work with you to establish that Medicaid eligibility. You have to have the impairment prior to age 22, and that has to be documented, and the impairment continues indefinitely. You must also reside in your own home or your family home. If you're in a residential setting, you can still apply for the autism waiver, but if a slot were to come up, you cannot be in a residential setting at the time that slot is made available. The Department of Social Services waivers for persons with autism provides home and community-based services to individuals with autism who do not have, again, an intellectual disability, meaning that their IQ is a 70 or higher. And as you can see from these services, they are behavioral, job coaching, community mentor, life skills coach, social skills group, respite in and out of home, assistive technology, interpreter services, specialized driving assessment, personal emergency response system, individual goods and services, and non-medical transportation. The waiver for persons with autism is not an entitlement, therefore services and access to services under the ASD labor may be limited based on available funding and program capacity, and a waiting list certainly applies. But as you can see from all these services too, there are no services that are just housing or housing supports, which continues to be a critical need for those with ASD, especially for those who are transitioning, those who have older parents who are really wondering what's going to happen to their kids as time goes on. Also, individuals with autism, when they are given a slot, they are assigned a case manager who will do an assessment to determine the level of need and the services that they need. Those services are then offered to the parents through a pool of list of approved ASD providers. Some parents may elect to do a self-pay. Some parents will go through that provider list, but those providers have all been vetted and approved by the Department of Social Services. Next slide. As you can see from this slide, this is a pretty grim picture. The autism lifespan waiver was renewed at the end of 2017 for 5 years and currently has a cap of 2021. It's not 134 slots, that's a typo, it's 124. The number of individuals presently being served by the waiver is 124. Right now, there are 118 individuals who are active participants, and there are another 6 that are in process. They've been assigned their case managers, and they're just waiting for other things like the Medicaid eligibility or waiting for the results of their assessment to determine the services that they will be getting. The waiver is expected to expand by 10 slots per year over the next 5 years. That is under the guidelines through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, who the state has a partnership with. This is a HCBS waiver, as Brian previously discussed. So the state of Connecticut gets reimbursement for having this waiver, and there are certain guidelines through Medicaid that the state needs to follow. The maximum waiver cap per person per year is $50,000. And there are actually currently, it just went over 1,800. So there's 1,800 individuals on the wait list. Like I said, this is a huge wait list. The funding has not kept up with the need. But because the wait list is going to be renewed at the end of 2017, what I've been telling parents is to make sure that you make your voices heard. You need to contact your elected officials You need to let them know and educate them about the unmet needs of the constituents and the districts that they serve. And you need to really advocate for an increase in funding and for just to get your individuals the services that they need. Next slide. Now I'm going to talk about state plan services. The state plan for ASD services was the result of guidelines issued by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. This required Medicaid programs to cover autism services for individuals under the age of 21, citing the early and periodic screening, diagnostic and treatment, EPSDT, child health component under federal law. The early and periodic screening, diagnostic and treatment, EPSDT benefit provides comprehensive and preventative health care services for children under the age of 21 who are enrolled in Medicaid. EPSDT is key to ensuring that children and adolescents receive appropriate preventative, dental, mental health, development, and specialty services. And as you can see, the early periodic screening, diagnostic, and treatment, there is the definitions for each. Next plan, next thing. The state plan for ASD, the services are managed under the Integrated Care Unit in the Division of the Health Services at DSS, while the Autism Lifespan Waiver is managed under the Community Options Unit within the Division of Health Services. And Beacon Health Options is the administrative service organization for the state plan ASD services. They are responsible for reviewing documentation to support level of care, guidelines, and medical necessity to authorize ASD services for Medicaid that would be Husky A, C, or D members under the age of 21. Husky B members are not eligible for state plan ASD services. Beacon Health Options also provides care coordination and peer specialist services for individuals with ASD. Next slide. So now I'm just going to talk about the services that are under the state plan. And the autism services through the state plan, again, for Husky A, C, and D individuals under the age of 21 is a comprehensive diagnostics evaluation. And that's for those members who are undiagnosed but suspected to meet criteria for an autism spectrum diagnosis. Behavioral assessment, which includes a functional behavioral assessment or an FBA to determine the specific behavioral needs of the member. Treatment plan development, that would be the individual's provider's development of a behavior intervention plan or a BIP, based on the functional behavioral assessment that focuses on replacing challenging behaviors with more productive ones, including measurable goals and objectives. This guides the direct intervention by qualified behavioral technicians. The plan also includes parent training goals and a crisis plan. The development of a program book, and that would be a book that would remain in the home that the parents can refer back to, and that is kind of a cross communication between the individual's providers and the family. Direct intervention, which is in-home and community-based services by behavioral technicians supervised by a BCBA or a board-certified behavior analyst or licensed clinician. Medicaid determines covered hours based on medical necessity in the treatment plan. And then the final one is group treatment services, which includes social skills and parenting groups for members and their families. Okay, this slide is just how to get in touch with us in our website. It's the Connecticut Department of Social Services, the Autism Spectrum Disorder. So ct.gov/DSS. When you get to the autism disorder page, you'll see programs and services. You click on that to ASD. And then we have overview, eligibility, related resources, and contact as our links. We also have an interpreter link that is brand new. The overview would give the program description and the services offered. The eligibility provides the criteria and links to the application. And as Brian had previously noted, the Department of Developmental Services currently determines eligibility for the Department of Social Services autism waiver. The waiver is the application is the same application as the application for DDS. The related resources are our autism checklist and guides by age. That goes from birth right through 21 and over. We also have a list of autism resources at the local, state, and national level, including specific documents related to transition, employment, and then also our contact information, which would give the contact for our program manager, our administrative assistant, Lisa Benetti, and the two resource specialists, myself and my colleague, Nathaniel Calixto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
And now we've got Karen and Ebony.
Hi, thanks, Alicia. Thank you, everyone, for having us today. Yeah, I'm Karen Quisnell from the Department of Labor, and I'm here with my colleague and friend Ebony Johnson from the workplace from our Southwest Workforce Region, who will give you a general overview of some of the youth programs available through the public workforce system. So the American Job Centers, or the AJCs as we often refer to them, are the centers of the public workforce system here in Connecticut. This is a system built on partnerships of organizations, including the Department of Labor and the Regional Workforce Board. You see their logos here, to provide workforce services to address the career readiness and training needs of anyone looking for work or seeking a career change, and for employers too looking for skilled workers. The next slide. So, thanks. In Connecticut, we have 5 workforce regions. They're shown here on the map, and each region has a workforce development board that's responsible for planning and coordinating programs to address the workforce needs of their particular region. So the boards are an important partner in the Department of Labor and the American Job Center system, because they really do set the priorities for employment and training programs based on their regional needs, and then they implement those programs. So I mention this because each region may be different in terms of training programs offered, sometimes even an intake. You'll hear this repeated a few times maybe in our presentation. So it's a good idea to be connected to your local American Job Center, visit the Department of Labor and the Workforce Board websites. Follow us all on social media. We all have, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram pages. And just to stay current with the programs available and hear about any upcoming programs, because new initiatives are implemented all the time, and they do, again, vary from region to region. And I have CT hires on here as well, because any orientation, information session, or program will require a registration in CT hires. And that's something that students can do really at any time. CT Hires is more than just a registration site for our programs and services. It's a virtual career center with a wealth of information, how-tos, assessments, labor market info, job postings, recruitment announcements, and so much more. So I highly recommend checking it out, cthires.com. So I'm going to turn this over to Ebony now, who will tell you about our WIOA Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act youth programs available statewide, and also some of the specialized programs for in-school and out-of-school youth. So take it away, Ebony. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. As Karen stated before, my name is Ebony Johnson. I'm the lead workforce specialist at Career Hub, a division of the workplace. So in these next few slides, I will discuss WIOA eligibility, young adult training, and services implemented in different regions. So first, we're going to start off with WIOA, what populations they target. So WIOA stands for the Work Innovation and Opportunity Act. WIOA are federal funds provided to assist those who face barriers to employment and educational training opportunities. WIOA young adult eligibility range from 16 to 18, depending on what region you're in, or to 24. This may vary. WIOA's priority group is out-of-school young adults ages 18 to 24, and in-school youth 16 to 21. And for the summer program is 14 to 21, and we'll discuss that in a later slide. So to qualify, young adults must have one of the following barriers: which includes be in the foster care system or have aged out of the foster care system, documented disability, pregnant or parenting youth, involved with the adult or juvenile justice system, high school dropout, homeless, basic skills deficient, or low income. Income will come into play in some of the barriers, especially if you're basic skills deficient. These two go hand in hand because you can't be basic skills deficient without being low income, and also English language learners. So like, as I said, income will be determined on each case. Everyone is going to be different and their situation will be different. So next, we're going to look at some of the WIOA services offered. So case management and 1 year of retention follow-up. So case management is done while the participant is actively in the program. And this is to kind of help the participant to develop a personalized action plan to accomplish their employment or educational training goals. The retention comes in after they exit the program, in which we follow up the participant for up to a year to ensure that they have met all employment and training needs, or if they need additional assistance. So our next point would be the soft skills and pre-employment training, which are provided through the work readiness program, which prepares participants with the necessary skills to secure and maintain stable employment by reviewing the following topics, such as mock interviewing, resume and cover letter writing, conflict resolution, because we want each of our youth to understand that conflict is going to be a part of life and it's all in how you deal with it. We offer leadership skills and customer service etiquette. So some of the trainings will be at a community college or on a college setting. It's just going to depend on which region you're in. So one of the trainings that will be located at a college would be the pre-apprenticeship training program, where I can speak for Bridgeport necessarily. And this is just to kind of give students the kind of feel of what it's like to be in the college environment. So some of the supportive services that we are assisting young adults will include transportation, books and uniforms. So for uniforms, or if they need clothing, if they're interviewing or they have to dress up at work, we do have referrals to Dress for Success and Stephanie's Closet, which they can be fitted with the outfits they would need for interviewing in the job. And Dress for Success would be for the females and Stephanie Closet would be for the males. So next we're gonna go on to paid work experience. This provides young adults with limited or no work experience. We gotta go back a slide. I'm sorry. This provides young adults with limited or no work experience on-the-job training, and the year-round program is a total of 8 weeks. Young adults can pick which site they would like to, gain the work experience, or we can place them on the actual site. In the past, we would have young adults work at small businesses, government buildings, schools, etc. So we want it to be something that they would be interested in doing. So some of the industry recognized credentials will include human services. So those that are interested in direct care or just working with individuals and helping professions, this would be the training for you. We also have CDL, which is the commercial driver's license certification, in which if you're interested in driving passenger vans or trucks. Then we have the CNA training, which is really popular among our young adults. And this is like the stepping stone into like the work, the health career fields. And then we have Serve Safe and Culinary Arts, where the students will learn food prep and how to prepare meals. And then we have the Construction Advanced Manufacturing Program for those that are interested in building things or programming. And then we have the National Retail Federation certification, which is more customer service, just kind of teaching youth how to, deal with various types of customers that they may encounter, working with people. So job placement. Most of our workforce boards have established relationships with employers to place young adults on sites. So the workplace has an employee relations specialist team, which they will help with job assistance, prepping them for the interview, helping them with questionnaires if they advance to the second level of the interview, and also, revising resumes and cover letters. So the last point would be financial literacy. So since the youth are going to be in our program, some of them are going to be in internships, and some of our trainings also offer stipends. We want them to be able to know how to handle their money, what to do with it. So we provide training where they're learning about establishing credit, banking, how to properly read a paycheck, just things to keep them aware of, how you should be saving your money and, protecting your money. So next slide. All right, so we're gonna look at some additional programs that I may have mentioned previously. So one of the first programs would be Youth Build. So Youth Build is a 6-month co-ed program for male and females between the ages of 18 and 24. And those participants may have a high school diploma or may not have a high school diploma. GED remediation services and GED prep are offered to help them to obtain their high school diploma or GED. We provide case management services and 1-year follow-up services. Youth also receive credentials in construction site safety, such as OSHA 10 and 30. They work with Habitat for Humanity to build houses. They receive uniform, Chromebooks, and when they enroll in the training, and they also receive a starter toolkit upon graduation, which is the tool belt, the tool bag, hammer, screwdriver, pliers. We also provide transportation assistance, whether that be a bus pass, gas card, or train pass. Students can also receive work stipends, so they get paid to go to training. We have job search and placement assistance. This is where our employment team would come into play to kind of get them placed as they're earning the skills. And then we also have, like, they can also go on to a paid internship opportunity after graduation. All right. And then next we have our Summer Earn and Learn program. The Summer Earn and Learn program is a 1-week work readiness training and 6 weeks of on-the-job training. So the first week would just be kind of teaching them how you should act and conduct yourself on the actual work site. So if you're going to be late, please call ahead of time and let your employer know. So that would be the first week of their training. And then the last 6 weeks will be they will be on the actual site, learning a trade or new skills. So young adults, as I stated before, can pick the site or they can be assigned a site. As long as they're willing to sign our work site agreement, we can partner with any local businesses within the area. In the past, again, we have placed young adults on, small businesses, so like hair salons, government buildings, and schools. The pre-apprenticeship program is a training program in manufacturing at no cost. It's funded by the U.S. and CTDOL. It has the earn and learn model, whereas students will earn as they learn, so they'll get paid to actually go to training, and paid on-the-job training from experienced mentors and related classroom training, rewards for skill gains and wage progression. Graduates also receive a portable industry recognized credential. And just some quick facts, a manufacturing company need young workers. So in 2020, there will be 155,000 manufacturing jobs in CT, and we have to prepare our youth to be able to go out and get these jobs, and not just get them, but to also maintain them. So next, I'm going to turn it back over to Karen, and she can kind of go over Job Corps.
Thanks, Ebony. So the final piece is that we don't want to forget about the Job Corps. Job Corps is a United States Department of Labor program. Connecticut Department of Labor is a partner in that. There are locations in Hartford and New Haven. They offer residential and non-residential options. And a lot of people, usually when they think of Job Corps, they think of the residential piece of it for education and training for 16 to 24-year-olds. So there is an income eligibility component, and the maximum age limit may be waived if the applicant is a person with a documented disability. And for minors, a parent or guardian must consent, sign a consent form. But they offer a lot, career training and a recognized industry credentials, as well as the opportunity to get a high school diploma, GED, driver's license, they have tutoring and other supports. So again, you can, check out their website and get more information. I know they have a great culinary program, they have advanced manufacturing, and they have others. So check that out as well. So for our final slide, next slide, please. Here's a list of important links to our programs, to the workforce boards I mentioned. You can refer back to the map to find out your local workforce board. Links to CT hires and other useful sites for your information. And I should mention too, and when I talked about the American Job Centers, because of the pandemic, the American Job Centers are open right now by appointment only. So to make an appointment, to get assistance, you can go to the Department of Labor website and click on Contact Us, and there's a form to fill out for general assistance. For other programs, you can connect with CT Hires and look for the orientations and the information sessions that are specific to, the region, that you reside in to find out about more opportunities. And again, you can follow the workforce boards and Department of Labor on social media to find out about other types of programs. There's a lot out there. So thank you very much. I'll turn it back to you, Alicia.
Thank you. Thank you for all of our team that did a brief overview of our agencies here in Connecticut. You'll find all of our names here on the slides. I know that we went a little bit over and there's been a lot of questions that have come through. So we're going to go through a few of the questions, and then Kim from Southern Connecticut State University will come on to talk about breakout sessions, and then we will remain on to continue to answer the questions that have been asked, and the recording will continue during that time. So I jotted some down. Brian, I think we have a few that probably Brian and Kathy can sort of co-answer some of them.
Alicia, if you could stop your sharing, I can put the questions up.
Oh, great.
Alicia, this is Brian. I was going through a bunch of the questions. This so people know, and I apologize if I didn't catch it through one of the other presenters, so my apologies to you. The CFC, which is a Community First Choice program, is a waiver program offered under the Department of Social Services. So that is an in-home model where somebody who is deemed eligible, who has Husky A, C, or D, along with meeting some of the assessment tool criteria that they use, would get an allocation from DSS directly to self-hire some in-home residential supports. So the application would be through DSS, and I know there is a bit of a wait once you apply to get somebody to reach back out to you and go through the next steps, complete the assessment, etc. Don't know how long of a wait it is. And they were doing reevaluations on everybody who was originally approved. I think they're caught up with all that. So the wait time might be a little quicker turnaround time. So I saw that question in there. I hope that answers that. We do have a number of folks in DDS who are accessing that CFC program. And it's a great complement to their employment and day services they may be getting from us to have some of that additional in-home services as well. I know there was a question about eligibility and the timing of applications. I think Mr. Volkmer mentioned early, start things earlier. So I encourage families to consider applying for DDS as early as they possibly can when they make that decision as a family that their loved one may benefit from being connected with us. So the earlier the better, whether you use this or not. We use that information to do fiscal planning and advocacy with the legislature and the governor's office for funding for services. The documentation for DDS has to be dated. Basically, we're looking for that developmental period, so pre-18. So if you're applying at 30 years of age, as long as those cognitive reports and documents you're giving us shows that the disability was prevalent during the developmental period of prior to age 18, we're okay. If we're getting tests that were conducted at 25 or 30, that doesn't validate that the disability was present during the developmental period. So we do have a lot of folks who don't come through eligibility until later in life, and that's a family or an individual decision or conducted during the time in which they were prior to age 18. And that's what you're submitting along with your application. There shouldn't be any major questions. And I know Kathy probably talked about her eligibility is up to 22 to be conducted. So if there was a question about specific eligibility questions, my contact information was in one of the slides. Please feel free to reach out to me. I know there's more of an individual situation that somebody wanted to share. You can reach me. Email is the easiest way. due to working remotely. So we can connect by email and then we can connect by phone. So I welcome that contact. And services for parents. So that was another question. We do have a number of individuals who are DDS individuals who are supported by our agency who are also parents. So we don't have an extensive amount of services specific to parenting, but we do have services that would support that individual in their home or employment or day that the children may benefit from indirectly, but we support the individual. Yes.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? I just posted in the chat room that there's a Proud Parents Providing Leadership and Encouragement to Parents with Disabilities group meeting. The next one is this coming Tuesday, and they are parents who have been affected by DCF in one way or another, and their goal is to prevent family disruption and get families the support they need. And I put a contact information, Mary Lou Freitas, with an email address for whoever asked that question or anyone else who may be interested. It is specifically for and by parents with disabilities.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. There is a number of folks that are in our system who are parents, and we try to make some of those peer-to-peer connections when possible. So there is a variety of different services that we can support that parent as an individual based on how we do services, but indirectly, some of those services benefit the children in their household. The DSS question I saw pop up regarding Husky D to Husky C, that's a little bit more technical. A lot of times people get put on Husky D in part because they didn't secure or were deemed not eligible for some reason for Social Security benefits. Often what happens is when in DDS world, we encourage folks to go through Social Security to secure SSI, or if it's applicable, SSDI. And that disability determination that they complete is used by Husky Connecticut Medicaid to determine the person disabled for the Husky program, which would put them on the Husky C track. So often when that Social Security component is not in place, folks end up on the Husky D, which is for low income adults. So that's typically what ends up happening, but there are some little nuances. If the individual is connected with DDS, we do have staff who are embedded with us from DSS, so we can try to work out those logistics on how to get them flipped from D over to C. But if you're outside of our DDS network, I wouldn't be able to help navigate that. But again, my contact information is in one of the earlier slides. Feel free to reach out to me and we can maybe talk specifics on a particular case. And as far as day programs, and I think this is my last one I saw DDS related, use our qualified provider list, excuse me. That's a great way to start. That list is just their home base, obviously. So they don't produce a listing of where all the day programs are located with all their addresses for safety, security reasons, obviously. But if you work with our staff, we'll be able to hone in on who is in your immediate community or beyond that immediate community that you can start looking at and having those dialogues with those providers and possibly doing virtual or in-person tours depending on their COVID restrictions. So the qualified provider list is on our website. The link was on my one of my slides as well. So you can use that. It's an embedded link that brings you right to the document. It's a PDF document. It's about 24 pages long. It's not an easy sortable tool, but it'll give you an idea of who provides what services and in what communities. Okay. I think I captured all of them, but if I missed one, please let me know.
Thanks, Brian. I think at this time, Kim, do you want to do a quick run through of the breakout sessions?
Yeah, that would be great. I just want to say a quick thanks to Alicia and your team this morning.